Hello everyone, this is Highlander doing another custom Magic card review from MTG Cardsmith. Today we're reviewing a card by FireOfGolden called Error's Puppets. Error's Puppets. Error's Puppets. Um, I just finished reviewing the Error event. I feel like I'm saying the word error a lot. And if you haven't watched that review, please watch that because I talk about reference cards. So it's important to sort of get that context for this particular rating. All right. So that being said, let's take a look at Air's Puppets. This is a 5-mana legendary enchantment at rare. Error, 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 error. See, is error in this picture? This is error, I guess, right? He's like a different color in this picture, but all right, see what we got here. At the beginning of your combat phrase, okay, I think you meant phase there. At the beginning of your combat phase, you may gain control of target creature until end of combat phase. If you control a legendary skeleton rogue named Error, the Error event, gain control of 2 target creatures until end of combat phase instead. Untap those creatures, these creatures, and they gain haste until end of turn. Okay. Um, I see what's going on here. So basically, you get to threaten a creature every turn, and if they have error out, then they get to threaten 2 creatures every turn. Okay. Um, all right. I think that's fine. I think that's fine for 5 mana. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, being able to threaten a creature every turn is actually quite powerful. I would think. Probably, especially in Commander. Uh, and enchantments are generally difficult to deal with, for at least for some colors, right? So it's certainly a strong ability. It's actually difficult to price something like this because it's it's actually I don't know if I've ever seen repeatable threaten like this before, where there's no cost involved in your threatening. It just kind of happens every turn. I mean, there are some cards that let you threaten by paying a cost. Um, there's like a pirate that does that, I think, for 4 mana. Uh, so hard to actually think of cost wise what this should cost. I would kind of err on the side of caution and say maybe this should cost 6 mana, um, since threatening one creature sorcery costs 3 generally. Uh, I mean, tacking on 2 extra mana to do that every turn seems a little cheap, especially, I mean, if potentially you could even do that twice if you have error out. So that bothers me a little less. But of course, in Commander, it's not difficult to get out your Commander. Um, so that being said, interesting card. I think it's maybe a little undercosted. Um, and the other issue I have with this card is the wording. So um, you you can actually reduce the number of words on this card by a lot. So and I'll kind of explain why here. So this says at the beginning of your combat phase, you may gain control of target creature until end of combat phase. If you control a legendary skeleton rogue named Error, the Error event, gain control of 2 target creatures until end of combat phase instead. Untap these creatures, and they gain haste until end of turn. So basically, you could potentially word this. So I'm gonna read this with a different wording, and let's see if we can sort of make this card a little simpler. At the beginning of your combat phase, gain control of up to 1 target creature an opponent controls until end of turn. Okay, let me start over here. Tell you what, let's make this easier. All right, we're gonna notepad this. Okay, I do love me some notepad. So let's go at the beginning of your combat phase. Gain control of up to one target creature until, and I'm going to change this to end of turn. And the reason why is because, excuse me, basically every threaten effect I've ever seen does it until end of turn. Now, you may have done it until end of combat phase for balance reasons, and I can see why you might do something like that. But I think it's important that when you're designing a card that you sort of stick with templating that players are already familiar with. Now, you don't always have to do that, right? I mean, there are certainly occasions where you don't need to do that. But I think in this case, the slight bit of like balancing that you get by giving the creature back at the end of combat phase, is sort of negligent. That's not the right word. What am I trying to say? It's very small. I'll just say it that way. It's a very small difference, but the benefit you get of wording this the same way as other threaten effects is actually quite large, because it means that when a player is reading your card, they can go, at the beginning of your combat phase, gain control of up to one target. Okay, I get what this card does, right? Like they can read the card without actually reading the card, because they've seen this wording so many times. And then we can say, if you control a creature named error, the error event, gain control of up to 2 target creatures instead. Let's see, can we make this simpler? If you control a creature named error, the error event. Okay, control up to 2 creatures. Okay, I think that works. So here, you're specifying a legendary skeleton rogue named Error, right? Now, the Error event. Now, in Magic, you can't really have 2 cards with the same name that do different things, right? Or that are different cards. So you don't really have to specify a legendary skeleton rogue named Error the Error event. You could just say a card named Error the Error event. This doesn't really buy you anything. It doesn't even protect you from like clone effects, because when you clone an error, it's also a legendary skeleton rogue, right? So it's like you're not once again, you're not gaining much by having this on here, and you're just taking up sort of extra space, right? So you can just say, if you control a creature named Error the Error event, gain control of up to 2 target creatures instead. And I don't think you need to actually say until end of combat phase instead. I don't think you need to specify this second part. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure Jadefire will tell me if I'm right or wrong about this. But I think if you word it that way, it's still perfectly fine. I think the until end of turn is sort of assumed there. And then, of course, we need to say, untap those creatures. They gain haste. Oops. They gain haste until end of turn. Okay. So, this isn't like the least amount of text I've ever put on a Magic card, but we have actually cut out a number of things, and we've sort of improved the templating a little bit. And I also corrected a few grammatical errors here. Now, with grammatical errors, I understand English is not everybody's first language. Grammar is kind of challenging because, well, okay, I'll start off by saying your card should have correct grammar. Okay, it just should. Like, Magic cards have correct grammar. Wizards doesn't make grammar errors. Of course, this is called error, so But um, you know, I will take points off for incorrect grammar. Um, I understand that not everybody speaks English perfectly. It's not their first language, or there's other circumstances. They might be young, or I think in Fire of Golden's case, I believe he's deaf. He's told me. I don't know if that affects his grammar, but it definitely means that you hear people talk less, and so therefore you might have less experience with hearing grammar. Regardless, you need to make sure your card has correct grammar. So, uh, you know, yeah. Sorry, that's all I'll say about that. Okay, so that being said, I think this card is a perfectly fine card. Just to summarize here, I do think it should probably be a little bit more expensive. This is a pretty powerful effect, I think, for 5 mana. It is legendary enchantment, which I do like that. And I think if you corrected the grammar and you worded this card a little bit differently, it would be improved by quite a bit. So I'll give this card a 3 out of 5. Has some improvements it can make, but the idea behind the card I think is solid. It's a fine card. Um, it's not the most unique card, but again, cards don't have to be the most unique card, but they do if you want a 5 out of 5. So, but there's still plenty of room for cards like this. So yep, 3 out of 5 for Heirs Puppets. Thank you for watching.